My name is Dan Lawrence. I'm a human performance coach and head of performance at Matchroom Boxing. Over the past 18 years, I've coached over 30 champion athletes, from NFL Super Bowl winners, undisputed boxing champions, and numerous Premier League footballers. In today's video, we're going to discuss 7 performance tips to get you in peak physical condition. If you're one of those people who starts and then stops and just feels like you're going around in circles without ever really getting any results in the gym, with your nutrition, or just in performance in general, check out this video, apply these 7 principles consistently, and I guarantee results. So number 1, 30 to 35 grams of protein with each meal. So we know the World Health Organization's recommended allowance for protein per day is 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight, which is considerably low. For a 100 kilo male, for context, that's only 80 grams of protein per day. Our nutritionist at Perform 365, Dr. James Morhan, PhD, the head of performance nutrition with England Rugby, recommends anywhere between 2 and 2.4 grams per kilo of body weight. So you can see that's considerably different to the World Health Organization. So a 100 kilo male would be anywhere around 200 or 220 grams of protein per day. And you might be thinking, well, why is protein so important? I keep seeing it everywhere and hearing about it. Protein is an essential macronutrient to improve satiety, the feeling of fullness for longer, which is vitally important for anyone who's maybe trying to lose body fat. If you increase your protein intake, you're not going to be ravenous and trying to grab loads of different meals. So keep your protein high to improve satiety. But also, if you're trying to build some tissue and improve muscle, one of our goals here, number 6, is strength training. So when we strength train, we know we're creating some damage to the tissue. So you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you weren't getting adequate daily protein to help the regeneration and repair of tissue. So we've broken this down to keep it super simple for our clients. 30 to 35 grams with each and every meal. So let's say you have 5 meals a day, 30 grams of protein, so maybe 4 meals with a shake per meal, then you've hit your target. Number 2, 85% of your diet through whole food. So we know these days there's so much crap out there, processed food, we hear about it all the time. So if you can keep around 80 to 85% of your diet through full whole food, then we're going to be in a good position. Of course, we don't want to be rigid and restrictive here. We've got to be realists. So if something creeps in, 10, 15, maybe 20% of your diet is processed and you go out with friends, absolutely fine. But the lion's share, at least above 75% of your diet, needs to be through whole food to ensure that we're set up for success, not just from an outside point of view, an aesthetic point of view, but what's going on internally as well. Number 3, electrolytes. Super important in warmer climates, but important across the globe. So electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, sodium, and calcium. Of course, water intake is vitally important. In fact, it's not on the list here, but you should be having a minimum of 3 litres of water per day. But water is sometimes not enough. If, again, with my boxers, if they're training in a warm gym and their core temperature is very high and they're training at high intensities, perspiration rate is really high. So yes, getting water is important, but also the potassium, magnesium, sodium, and calcium that you get through electrolyte tablets is vital. So having electrolytes will improve cognitive function plus muscle function as well. Number 4, 7+ hours sleep a night. Whether you've got an Oura Ring, Whoop, or one of the other wearables out there to track and use the objectivity, it has a bit of a gamification process to it as well. Some people don't like it, but at least it gives you an idea of the total duration of sleep. And then of course, looking at the quality of sleep through different sleep zones as well. So I do appreciate if you've got a young family, this number is going to be quite hard, but generally speaking, we want to be shooting for around 7 hours sleep a night. So creating the optimal sleep environment from temperature, from light, from when you last had caffeine, from when you had your last meal, so your body's not breaking that meal down too late, again, is vitally important. As well as blue light exposure, whether you've got blue light blocking glasses or just try not to look at your phone for 30, 40 minutes pre-bed, again, that will help aid a restful night's sleep. And we know that we don't want to spike your cortisol. That's going to be negative in terms of this journey, and also to optimize recovery. The number 1 recovery tool that costs absolutely nothing is sleep. So if we can create the optimal sleep environment to try and get a minimum of 7 hours per night, then we're going to be set up for peak performance. Number 5, 7,500 steps per day. You might be thinking, well, Dan, I thought it was 10,000 steps a day. We know that's an arbitrary number, but the step count is still vitally important. If you train for an hour a day, 7 days a week, and you only get 2,000 steps in per day, that's going to be quite negative in terms of your total outputs. So we call it the NEAT principle: none exercise activity thermogenesis. So crush your training, yes, but if you can aim for 7,500 or 10,000 steps outside of your training each day, that does compound over time. So we've just said 7,500 steps. We work with high performing CEOs, and 10,000 can sometimes be a little bit unattainable. So try and get 7,500 steps alongside your training. Number 6, super important, and I'm a big advocate for this, not just with my pro athletes, but also for the older aging population as well. Strength training is vitally important. I'd actually bump that up to 4 times a week, but again, we want to set up realistic targets here. Minimum 3 times a week of strength training. And when I say strength training, guys, this doesn't mean max effort above 85% of 1 rep max. You know, it doesn't mean you're working with a 0 reps in reserve and you're crumbling under the bar. Just exposing yourself to load, enough load to drive an overload stimulus to allow for physiological adaptation is sufficient. Again, it doesn't need to be balls to the wall every single day, but strength training, we know from bone mineral density, increasing lean tissue, and again with the older population, sarcopenia and osteoporosis is vitally important. Number 7, the final one to reach peak physical condition, is creatine. We tend not to go with a loading phase. It's entirely up to you whether you go with 20 or 25 grams in an initial loading phase, but we do recommend 5 grams per day. Creatine monohydrate, you don't need anything else. Have that with your protein shake, and creatine will help with cognitive function, plus many other benefits. We use it with our pro athletes, whether it's Premier League footballers or boxers, because it will help with repeated high intensity bouts of exercise to allow them to replenish ATP, so adenosine triphosphate, creatine phosphate system. So 5 grams of creatine per day. So guys, I've tried to break this down in simplistic form. This is very realistic for you. And though it's not flash, I'm not saying do this one thing and you're gonna get great results. But if you do these 7 things for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, I can guarantee you're going to get closer to your goal. So hopefully you found this video useful. Comment, like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you on the next one.